I'd like to ask you a rhetorical question. Have you ever been so afraid that you feel sick to your stomach, you can't sleep, you can't eat, you can't think? Well, thousands of kids go to school every day in the state. These kids are bullying, or have been bullied. I've been teaching kids how to deal with bullying for 20 years now. And what I find works is helping kids develop their skills as leaders. Help them realize that they have the power to change their situation. Teaching them about respect and responsibility and integrity and initiative, and helping them build their confidence, because the best defense against bullying is confidence. It's helping them realize that they have the ability to change their situation that's in front of them. I teach them usable anti-bullying strategies. But the most important thing that I think these kids need is they need to realize that whatever makes them different as a child has the potential of making them great as an adult. Whatever obstacle that comes into their life is something they can face and use to inspire other people. Whatever challenge that comes into their life is a usable tool for a leader. There's a young man I met, his name is Travis. And Travis came into my Kids for Kids program, and he wasn't that interested in coming into this Saturday program. He was a teenager, and he wanted to just be sleeping in like any other teenager. But he came into my program, and he was there with his hands crossed going, well, I'm only here because my mom made me come. And so he was there for a few weeks, but something happened with Travis. Something clicked. Something helped him realize that he could use his situation to inspire other people. Because you see, Travis was a young man with ADHD, with Tourette's. He was a child with a learning disability, and he was also a child that was bullied from kindergarten up to grade 12 by the same young man. But he realized that he could use all that stuff, all those opportunities, not challenges, but opportunities to inspire other people. And he's been with me for 6 years. I'm very proud of Travis. Then I had a boy named Bobby. Well, Bobby, when we first met, it wasn't a great initial meeting. He came into the school, and he walked into the classroom, and he said, "Are you Mr. Graham?" And I said, "Yes, I am." Well, I was greeted with a punch to the stomach and an F off. What are you going to do about it? So this was Bobby. And so I'm thinking, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do about it. But this is the kind of kid he was. He was, by definition, a bully. He was a kid who loved to get attention by being the bad kid. But as I got to know Bobby, I realized there was something really amazing about this kid. If you could get him away from his peers, you could see that he had this charisma, this power to draw people in. So I took a chance, and I brought him to one of my programs, and I said, if you come, I will give you pizza, and you can help me dish out the pizza to the younger children. So he came, probably for the pizza, and he came, but the kids absolutely loved Bobby. He was appropriate, but they saw him as this teenager that was kind of cool, but he was appropriate. But all of a sudden, something clicked with Bobby, and he realized, maybe I can get all the attention and all the status that I get from being a bully by being a leader. And over time, and it wasn't a perfect kind of like journey, but over time he realized that all the stuff that he wanted was something he could get as a leader. And he developed into an amazing leader. Kids have stories, and kids have differences. We have to teach kids that whatever makes you different, challenges, obstacles, all this can be used in your leadership style. I met a girl named Sarah, and I was working at the hospital for sick children, and she comes in. And you have to understand, Sarah, her face was looking a little different. She had something called a craniofacial difference. She looked very striking looking. She comes in, everyone stops. They had never seen anyone like Sarah. But she comes in and she says, well, I know I don't look like any beauty princess, but when you get to know me, you're going to see how cool I am. What are you doing? Let's go. And she gets into the game. And so everyone's still checking out Sarah, trying to figure out why she looks the way she does. And then she says, well, obviously you notice that my difference is the way I look. And she went on to explain why she looked the way she did. But then she said, but you know what? Once you get to know me, you're going to see what I'm all about. I'm pretty cool, and I'm a good friend. And every single person in that room, by the end of the day, wanted to be friends with Sarah. Her story was, you know what? Yeah, I look a little different, but wait till you see what I can do. And she was such an inspiration. Then I met a boy named Byron. His mom goes, well, Byron's a little clumsy. He falls, he trips, he bounces, but he's a good kid. Well, I'm looking at this young man, a 7-year-old boy, and I'm looking at him. Oh, he bounced, but he was running right for the cement wall. I'm thinking he's probably going to stop. Oh, no, he didn't stop. Bam! Right into the wall. And I'm thinking, okay, then he gets up, and he runs into the girls' change room. All the girls come out screaming, there's a boy in there! And I'm thinking, what is going on? But then I looked at him and I noticed something, that his eyes were a little different. And I said, Byron, was there something you forgot to mention? And he said, well, I was going to tell you later, but well, I'm kind of blind. You're kind of blind? How can you be kind of blind? But I guess he was so used to being told that, oh, you're the blind kid, you have to sit over here, or you can't play, or you can't be part of the organization. He just wanted to be a regular kid. And you know, he was with me for 7 years, and his story was so inspiring. It was like, you know what? Yeah, I can't see as well as everyone else can, but you know what? I'm going to do it differently, but wait till you see what else I can do. And he was such an inspiration because he used his story as not, oh, I can't do it because of this. He used it in a way to inspire other people. And then I had this young man, and this is probably the most challenging story, but he was a young man who came into my program when he was about 7 as well. And I didn't know much about Scott other than that he was from Florida and he came up from the States. Well, we started talking about challenges, and he said, well, I got a challenge for you. And his challenge was that him and his mom and his dad went down to Florida. They went down to Florida, and they were there 3 weeks. His dad was a taxi driver. And so the dad picks up a young lady, and Scott's dad was shot and killed for $7. Scott comes back 2 years later. We're talking about differences, and he tells me that this is the difference that I have to deal with. This is my challenging situation. But then he started to say, but you know what, maybe I'm going to meet someone in my life who I can use this situation, this challenge, this story to inspire, or I can help them. How does a 7-year-old articulate that? How does he realize that even though this is the most drastic, challenging situation you could probably think of and go through, he figured out something good in it to use to teach other people. And this is what I see all the time with kids, helping them realize that differences are great. But bullies, they try to pick at you, trying to get that difference from you. They want to take it from you. They want you to think that whatever makes you different is not so cool. Give it up right now. But the thing about bullying is, we know what it is. It's an imbalance of power. It's frequent. There's intent. It can be violent. It can be verbal, physical, relational, social. And now bullies can come right into your child's room through the internet, through social networking. And where they were once safe, there's not a safe place to hide from a bully. But the thing is, we need a new, definitive anti-bullying definition that differentiates between when a child's being mean and when a child is being a bully. There's a line. It starts off mean, and as you get kind of into it, it becomes bullying. But the reason this is important is because when kids are developing, they're impulsive. They're reacting to situations. They're not necessarily bullies. There's no frequency and there's no intent. They're reacting to a situation. Schools are getting all these calls, and the calls are, my kid's being bullied, when they're not being bullied at all. They're just dealing with children who are being mean. It's important to differentiate this, and the reason is because I was at the school in Toronto, and there's this young man named Paul. And every single time I said the word bully, people looked at Paul and said, well, Paul's a bully, Paul's a bully. And so it's his claim to fame. He's the bully. And none of the parents are letting anyone play with Paul because Paul's the bully. And I started thinking about this, and I thought, here's a kid that's labeled, you're a bully. He's in grade 1. And so let's say this kid decided he didn't want to be a bully anymore. So he goes on and he goes, okay, I'm not a bully anymore. I just want to kind of join what you're doing. Can I join? No, you're a bully. Get lost. Oh, can I come to your party? No, we don't invite bullies to our party. Well, I'm not a bully anymore. Yeah, bullies lie. Get lost. This kid is going to become a bully because we're not giving this child a chance to change. Like Bobby, Bobby was a bully, but he changed. He turned it around once he realized that he had that potential of being a leader, that potential of using his situation in such an inspiring and effective way. But we have to teach this to the kids, right? But we walk around, and this is what kids hear. They go, if you've ever been teased or bullied, walk away, or ignore it, or tell a teacher. These stock answers have been around since I've been a kid. But if you walk away, bullies have legs, they might follow you. Surprise, newsflash. And there's the ignore it. Well, not everything can be ignored. My last name is Graham, so I would hear Graham, Teddy Graham, Graham Crumbs. I could ignore that, but there were certain things I just could not ignore. I needed more. And to tell a teacher, depending on the age, some kids do not feel that telling a teacher is an option. And the reason is some kids believe it'll make my problem worse, because if the bully finds out I've told, then I'm going to have more to deal with. I'll just deal with it myself. Or they think they're going to be labeled as a snitch or a tattletale or a fink, or they don't think the answer is going to be there, so they deal with it themselves. We have to give kids more. And we also grab onto these statements that minimize the effects of bullying. For example, oh, it's just something boys go through. Kids go through this, no big, boys will be boys. It's just a kid thing, a rite of passage, or the big one, which is sticks and stones break your bones. Well, I did a little research on the sticks and stones little phrase. It was first uttered by U.S. black slaves in the mid-1800s because they believed that it was better to be verbally assaulted than physically. We have to get rid of these things, these statements that minimize the effects of real bullying, help kids understand there is more. We need to teach more. I open up the paper, and I'm sometimes afraid to open the paper because I read about all these situations. For example, there was a boy named Mitchell, beginning of the year, and here's an 11-year-old boy. When he was 9 years old, he lost his mom to cancer. When he was 10, he got diagnosed as someone who had muscular dystrophy. And at 11, he had to deal with this bullying situation when he was physically brought down to the ground, something was stolen from him, but Mitchell did the right thing. Mitchell made sure that the bully had a consequence for what he did. But now, the bullies, the friends, kind of come into Mitchell's life, and now Mitchell has to deal with the bully's friends. Every day, to school and back from school, verbally abused. The words that are not supposed to hurt. And Mitchell ended his life at the age of 11. And then there's Ryan. Ryan was a boy, he was like a typical adolescent. He wanted to be popular, he wanted to be cool with the girls. Well, during the summer, he got online and he met this young lady who was one of the popular girls. And this young lady went, I like you, Ryan. Like, I think we should get together. And they were back and forth with different kind of like texts and stuff like that. And I'll see you in school in September. Well, he walked up to her in September and said, hey, finally we get to meet face to face. And she turned around and looked at Ryan and said, you're such a loser. It was all a big ploy. And she took all those words that were exchanged during the summer and broadcast them to the school to see. And 4 days before Ryan's 14th birthday, Ryan ended his life. And the last one, there's a boy named Jamie. And Jamie was different. His difference was that he was gay. He was openly gay. And he wasn't ashamed of who he was. But other kids wanted to make his life a living hell. And it got so bad for Jamie, he just couldn't deal with it anymore, and he also ended his life. We have to realize that words are so destructive, and people need to realize that there are strategies we can teach these kids. One of the differences that I had to deal with when I was younger is I had a lot of problems with reading and writing. And of course, the word that was thrown at me was, oh, Scott Graham, you're just dumb. And they didn't have to call me dumb. I believed I was dumb. My brothers and my sisters, they could read and write. I couldn't read and write. So I'm thinking, I must be dumb. And then I found out this newsflash. We now know why Scott Graham can't read and write. You, Scott Graham, have attention deficit with hyperactivity. Obviously. And you also have something called a learning disability. And I'm thinking, oh, great. I have something called ADHD. I have a learning disability. I can't read and write. My world is coming to an end. But my friend came up to me and said, do you realize who else has ADHD and who else has a learning disability? And she had this list. And there was a lot of cool people on the list. I'm thinking, you mean they have what I have? Yeah, it's not a bad thing. You just have to figure out how to use it. And I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to prove those bullies wrong. I'm going to take this difference. I'm going to show people what can be done with it. And it took me to the end of high school. But I remember realizing that, hey, I can read, I can write, because another door opened. I started telling stories, and kids were captivated by the stories, and it was always fun to tell a scary story to the older kids, you know, the kids that can't get scared, you know those kids? And so I remember sitting around this campfire, and I was telling this story, and there's this one little sassy kid there, and of course he's like grade 6 or 7, and he's saying, yeah, bring on the story, man, you can't scare me. So I thought, a challenge, I like this. So I told him the scariest story I could tell. And of course at the end, he's like, big deal, I'm not even scared, I'm going to my tent. Well, I'm thinking that's kind of weird because that story scares all children. Even scares me sometimes when I tell it. But what happened was I walked by his tent about an hour later. I can hear him talking. And he's like, you think that story that Scott said was true? So I'm kind of thinking maybe he's a little more afraid that he's pretending to be. So I did the Scott Graham test. I noticed that his leg was on the side of the tent. So I went down really quietly, and I grabbed his leg, and let me just say, I wish I could have videotaped it. I would have been famous right now. It was very funny. But here's a kid, right? who was like all sassy and everything, but stories are great, right? People like hearing stories, but then my story even evolved after that. I started creating my own stories, and I put my stories into a book because of the encouragement of kids. They seem to like the stories. And now I'm an author who's written about 5 books. So how does a guy who still has a learning disability, who still has ADHD, go from someone who's a non-reader to a reader to a storyteller to an author? I stopped believing in the bullies and what they were saying to me, and I started believing in myself. And like I said, the best defense against a bully is belief in yourself, confidence, because you walk a certain way, you talk a certain way, but it's teaching kids how to deal with bullying or negative behavior, mean kids, things that are conflicts, obstacles in life, helping them realize it's all good depending on how you use it. So one of the things I like to teach kids is teach them, first of all, you're not getting teased or made fun of or bullied because there's something wrong with you. It's probably because there's something right with you. It's something that the bully's trying to take from you, and it's nothing to do with what they see. It's just they're trying to get that reaction, that power, that attention. So understand where it's coming from. Because a lot of people who get teased or bullied, they automatically assume, oh, must be something wrong with me. There must be a deficit. There's no deficit. And then it's the importance of eye contact. When you're confident, you walk a certain way, you talk a certain way. And when you're delivering a message, you need to look the bully right in the eye and deliver that message. Looking someone in the eye is very powerful. And I tell kids, even for us adults, it's a hard thing to do, to look someone right in the eye while you're talking. But the more you do it, the better you get. It's teaching kids how to be assertive and confident. Your body language conveys messages. If you have your hands in your pocket, you look kind of nervous. Hands across your chest, you look kind of like you're getting ticked off. You got to be aware of what your body is conveying. Shoulders back, hands by your side, and now you got to say something. I was talking to a group of parents up in Vaughan not too long ago, and one of the parents said, well, what should I tell my kid to say? The beauty is you don't have to say a lot or anything at all. You could deliver a cool, confident message with the eyes and with the body and just walking away. The more you say, the more likely the bully's going to play and get that reaction from you. So you don't have to rehearse anything. You just have to know how to deliver the message. So it's eyes, body, and not say a lot, and then walk away. But if the bully calls you names, because they will, because they want you to come back, you don't go back and answer the question. Boys, we are the worst. We walk away and someone goes, you're such a loser. You feel like you have to go back and say, I'm not a loser. But a lot of kids go back because they're thinking, well, I got to go tell them I'm not a loser because they said this thing. Because they're worried that someone's going to believe it. No one that matters is going to believe it. Keep on walking. But if they come up to you again, you should be thinking, another chance to show how cool you are, deliver the same message. But this time, just walk toward a safety zone. Walk toward the school, walk toward your friends, walk toward a teacher. And then if they do it again, be persistent and consistent. As much as this bully is trying to get that reaction out of you, that power from you, taking that difference from you, you have to understand that you have to deliver this cool, consistent, persistent message. They have to understand that they're getting nothing from you. And the thing is, then hopefully bullies will realize that they need to move on. But the one thing that's so important is there's a lot of bully situations that happen. We see it happening, but we don't do anything about it. Well, it's not my problem, or I don't like that kid anyways, or I don't want to get involved, because if I get involved, well, then the bully might bother me. Getting involved doesn't necessarily mean standing between a bully and someone who's being victimized by the bully. It could be telling a teacher, taking that kid who's being victimized and teased and saying, why don't you hang out with me, or teach him what you know. There's a lot of different ways of getting involved. It doesn't necessarily mean standing between the bully and the person getting teased. But it's helping kids realize that to be a leader, it means taking action. It means doing something. Giving kids information that will help them deal with the stuff that comes at them. One of the things that's really important is telling. But of course, as you get older, there's this creed or this thing that's out there. And it's, well, if I tell, I'll be a fink or a snitch or a wimp. Well, here's the thing. This is why I say telling is important. You have to be really specific with kids and help them understand. When you tell, because someone's in your face, you deliver the message, and they're not backing down from you, the reason it's important to tell is you're not just helping yourself, you're helping every other kid that this bully is bothering. And if you tell one person, and this person doesn't give you the help you need, keep on telling. Because you're helping so many people who are getting teased, and maybe you're turning it around for the bully and helping them realize that maybe the way they're going is not a cool way to go. But keep on telling. I'd like to share a story with you about a friend of mine, Michael Angela. I met Michael probably about 15 years ago now. He was a really cool kid. He was pretty popular. Girls thought he was kind of cute. He was very athletic. Teachers liked him. He was just a really cool guy. Bullies hated Michael because bullies were thinking, you know what, everyone likes Michael. Let's take something away from Michael. Let's humiliate him in front of his peers. So all the bullies ever did was use words against Michael. Embarrassed him in front of the girls, embarrassed him in front of his friends. It got so bad for Michael that he decided to get homeschooled all of grade 6. So he goes back in grade 7 because he wants to be, with his buddies when he graduates. He's there for 3 weeks, and the bullies are like, well, here comes Michael. Bring it on, people. It's going to be a great year. And Michael said to his friend, you know what? I'm not sure if I can, deal with this another year. All these words that just destroy me inside. So he said to his friend, well, I might get homeschooled for grades 7 and 8. I'm not really sure. And Michael went home that night, and he committed suicide. He ended his life. And I hear about this all the time. In Canada, one of the stats that I found was 1,000 kids commit suicide in Canada. 450 of those kids are in Ontario. There's kids going and thinking, there's no hope. There's no one standing here and helping me out. There's no support. We have to stand together and realize that, yes, words do hurt. But everyone who is in the school system, I'm going to tell you, they have the potential of being a leader. There's statements out there that minimize the potential of people. For example, oh, that kid over there, he can't be a leader. I don't think so. Everyone has the potential of being a leader. The only thing they need is desire. And once they have that desire, you get kids like Travis, who you know what? I can do stuff with this stuff. Or the boy named Scott, who goes around and goes, yeah, my dad was murdered, but you know what? Wait till you see what I'm going to do with this situation. It's not going to be an obstacle for me. And I see this all the time. It's harnessing and harvesting this stuff with kids and helping them understand that once you build that confidence and that leadership, what happens is you have this power to help other people and create this domino effect. And the thing is, I go to school to school. I go to 100 schools every year. And I see a lot of bully awareness, which is great, but I don't see any consistent language or consistent strategies teaching kids this is what you do when you get teased. I see bits and pieces of leadership, and some of the things I see are amazing, but no consistency. From one school, there'll be one school doing nothing, and there'll be another school doing everything. And it's deciding that we need a new agenda. We're going to start brand new here. We're going to have a new agenda teaching kids the specifics, helping them develop the leadership skills, and this will be from grade to grade, school to school, province to province, across Canada, across North America. And this is what we need to do. So before I leave you here, I kind of was debating about this for a little bit of time, but I thought, well, I did used to do it professionally, but back in the 80s when my hair was this long, it was a little different because I had a whole band around me, so if I made a mistake, you wouldn't really notice. But today, hopefully you won't notice either. I thought I'd play a song, and this song's actually, I'd like to dedicate it to my friend Michael Angeloff and to the memory of the kids that I mentioned, but to the power of kids that want to use their situation, their life story, to inspire other children and other adults. Because I'm going to tell you, some of the kids that I've actually met have really inspired me, and I think this is why I've been doing it for 20 years. Anytime I tell people my age, I don't want to shock you, so I won't tell you how old I am, but it's like almost 50, so that's all I'm going to say. I know, you thought I was old. Okay, here's the song. To all of the children who enter this world, the miracle of life is in you. Believe in yourself, believe in tomorrow. Your dreams and your hopes can come true. Little heroes, spend every moment living for today. Little heroes, the time that's been given for the dreams that you'll lay. The road that you're on can lead you to sorrow, but sorrow can turn to the hopes of today. Change your direction toward what you're after. Be patient, just wait. I will show you the way. Little heroes, little heroes, spend every moment living for today. Little heroes, little heroes, the time that's been given for the dreams that you'll live. Look toward the future, and what do you see? A place where the young are allowed to be free. Believe in yourself, believe in each other. For dreams that we dream are to help one another. Heroes, heroes, spend every moment living for today. Little heroes, little heroes, the time that's been given for the dreams that you'll live. The time that's been given for the dreams that you'll live. I thank you very much. Hold on.